Well, hello there. This is the Dr. Elisa Show on KUHS Denver, the stream. And hey, thank you for joining me. I'm just so excited to be here today. I'm excited every time I get to be with all of you. Little bit of a pivot today. If you've been watching my Facebook site and checking in on all the places you can find me, Twitter and LinkedIn and Instagram, you would have thought I had a guest today. Whitney Goodman, author of Toxic Positivity. Well, you know, sometimes life just has glitches, and we had a glitch today, but not a problem. We're going to talk about some of that today, but not with her, just with us, which is just going to be as fun, don't worry. And I want to build on that today. Before I go down that rabbit hole, let me remind you who I am and how you can find me. The doctor is that PhD in psych, and I have lots and lots of experience as an academic dean. Oh yeah, I was also a geologist. Oh yeah, I'm a trained astrologer. Oh yeah, I'm also now a motivational speaker and an author. And I'm here on KUHS. So thanks for being here and for continuing to be so incredibly supportive. Want to show you that, yeah, an author means there's 3 books out here. This is one I wrote with a dear friend who was my boss for quite a while, Pirate Wisdom. This one is a book on leadership and actually understanding how to deal with politics. It is small, it's short, right? It's like a little book, but it's really powerful. And if you are dealing with politics at work, and if you are at work, you are dealing with politics, this is a really good read. Also, novels, and I have to tell you, these 2 books you don't have to read them in order, but they do connect at the end. The first novel I wrote was Way of the Well, and it takes a glimmer of the story of the magical well that Miriam had. So Miriam's well of water, which is why the Israelites did not run out of water in the desert until she died. So this book goes off on spiritual journey. It's romantic, it's funny, it's an adventure, and there are actually pieces of it that are autobiographical, some of the more mysterious parts. This is my more recent novel, Dark Fire, and again, it's a funny, spiritual, adventurous romance, and I have to say that while the world is incredibly serious right now, and I am really supportive of all the ways that we have to engage on a serious level because of so much of the chaos in the world, sometimes you just need like a way to escape and to have a moment of laughter or suspense or romance. This is the book, Dark Fire. We're going to be talking about that book a little bit later in the show. What else am I talking about today? Oh, hey, I want you to call in, well, text in. Let me change that. And would love to see you on Facebook. So I'm live on Dr. Elisa Show, Facebook. I'm also probably live on KUHS Denver. I'm going to check on that one and see if we're live there. I'm sure we are. And there we go. You can chat with me today, and I really, really want to hear from you because, you know, it gets kind of lonely in here if you guys aren't chatting with me. So you can chat with me there. You can post on Facebook, and guess what? I've got the phone in the studio today. The number is 720-386-0513. 720-386-0513. You can text me and say, hey, like what you're talking about, or you can disagree with me, or you can ask me a question about whatever. So, and because I'm pivoting today, I want to start with that notion. So, what does it mean to pivot? I had this amazing conversation with 2 friends. One yesterday, Dr. Allie Hill. I want to do a shout out to her. She's this amazing business consultant, works with helping women go from entrepreneur to CEO, solopreneurs to CEOs of their own companies. You can find her at, just Google Dr. Allie Hill, you'll find her. And she and I were talking yesterday about women who know how to pivot. Specifically women, guys, you know, some of you know this too. How do you pivot? The world changes around you and in an instant. And we all know this happens, right? Whatever you had planned no longer works. Pivot. The business that you've been building, yeah, the world changed and you have to pivot. What do we know about companies that don't pivot? They go out. I mean, just think about this for a minute. Kodak used to be the name in anything to do with photography because they made the film. And then what happened? We stopped using film. Where did Kodak go? Yeah, that was a problem, right? We see that over and over again. That if you can't pivot, that life changes around you, and what you were doing that was successful no longer works. Interestingly, I had the same conversation this morning with another friend who's also been on the show, Delea Diana. You can find her at True North Equestrians with an S. And she is this incredibly powerful empath who gets messages from animals, specifically horses, but she has also worked with my dog. Not a psychic healer, not an animal communicator, but works with women, again, mostly, who are looking at their spiritual journey as it relates also to their animals. And if that didn't make sense to you, then, you know, that's fine. But that's what she does. And she, too, just today, had to talk about this need to pivot. And I woke up this morning and knew I had to pivot because I got a glitch and my guest couldn't show up. So some of what we're going to talk about today is that, and some of it is, hey, I'm just pivoting, and here we are. I also want to say that just for the fun of it, I got a new crystal ball. And so those of you who've been watching me for a while know that, yeah, I'm a trained astrologer, and yeah, I read tarot since I was, 12 or 13, but oh boy, do I love crystal balls. Now, some of that is, I'm a geologist also, and so you just have to love these mineral things you got. But I got a new one, and I brought it in. And so, yeah, if you have a question, you can also contact me in Facebook, or you can text me. And I'm going to be watching for anything like that happening. And see if we get any comments. Okay. So, there we go. Over here. And just playing with my technology. So what are we going to do today? Couple things. First off, the author may not be here, but the content is something I want to talk about. Because I do this interesting dance, and I think many of us do, in that we do understand that there is a mystical layer to the planet, right? There's something beyond us. For some people, they call it God. Some people call it the universe. Some people call that the force or the energy of the world or synchronicity. It doesn't matter what you call it. We all have a sense that there's something bigger than just rational thought in this world. And in fact, sometimes we lose rational thought in this world completely. And yet, some of the messages that come that have grown out of that sort of new agey, spiritual, woo-woo world are kind of harsh and can be a little bit harmful. And so I want to start there, and then we'll see where we end up. So let me know if this is interesting by just putting a thumbs up in the Facebook site, or you could probably text me a thumbs up on the phone here in the studio. So the book that I want to talk about is Toxic Positivity. And I really just want to talk about that concept. And I loved the book because I've seen this over and over again, where, and maybe women get this more than men, I don't know, but we're basically walking down the street and somebody looks at us and goes, smile, you'll be happier. You have no idea what that person is dealing with, and a smile does not necessarily change your day. That's a pretty minor example. But there's some really sort of deep beliefs that have permeated our culture, that, at least in America, that can be tricky, especially because we repeat them. So, what are some of those? There's a notion of manifesting. So any of you who read that book, The Secret, with all the hype that went with it and the video that went with it, and you can manifest anything, really, like attracts like, just dream it, it'll show up at your door. Well, you know what, my PhD, I dreamed it and I worked my tail off to get it. It didn't show up at my door. And so, yes, there's a piece of reality of here's what I want and I'm going to head towards it, but you also gotta do the work. It doesn't just magically show up. What is that old joke about somebody who's trying to win lottery, and they're trying and nothing happens, and then they get this voice that says, you know, you gotta buy a ticket. You gotta do something. You can't just rely on good vibes, positive energy, think positive. You can't just do that. And what makes this toxic is really kind of interesting. Sometimes positivity shows up as shame or blame, and it actually can be kind of dangerous. For example, I have a friend who has a autoimmune disease. It's one of those diseases out there. I don't want to out her, so I don't want to mention the disease. But people will say to her things like, you know, if you just went and exercised, or if you just did a juicing diet, or if you just, you know, do a vision board showing yourself healthy, or she has a very serious autoimmune disease. Those are lovely things, and they're not going to cure the disease. Can you visualize and dream? You know, we know about Dr. Joe Dispenza, who healed himself. That's grand that he did. Can all of us do that? No. No. Is it a good augmentation of also dealing with life via Eastern and Western and all medicine and all the other ways we can stay healthy? Yes. But just relying on this notion that you can do anything with your mind, yeah, that's tricky. That one's tricky. So my poor friend not only has an autoimmune disease, but then is also being told she's doing it wrong. Like she wouldn't have this disease if she just changed her mindset. Yeah, bullshit. Right? I mean, it just is. And I think people say that to her in an effort to help her heal. But in reality, it's emotionally painful. I'll tell you some others. Sometimes we can be in denial. It's difficult to deal with other people's pain. We know that. So we can just deny it. Here's some examples. I was sharing an office at one of my jobs with another faculty, and she got laid off. And she came back into the office after being laid off, and she was crying, and I was, trying to, I was just being present. This is really hard. Yes, I know. Okay, we can talk, in a few minutes we'll talk about next steps. Yes, do you need to go home today? What can you do to take care of yourself just today? Let's look at that. And somebody else came in and said, whenever a door closes, another opens. Everything happens for a reason. Look for the silver lining. And this poor faculty just burst out sobbing where she'd been getting it under control. Not this moment. And first off, it's not true. Does everything happen for a reason? I really want to talk about that. Because in terms of, natural laws like physics, yeah, everything happens for a reason. Is that a good reason? Not necessarily. So do earthquakes happen for a reason? Yes. It's called tectonic plate movement. Do volcanoes happen for a reason? Yes. Basically the same answer, or close to the same answer. Do you run out of gas for a reason? Yeah, you didn't put gas in your tank. Do you get a disease? Well, you're human. We're human. Humans get diseases. Can you beat every single disease on the planet? Probably not. You're human. Do some people? Absolutely. Does everybody? No. And right now, I think that notion, everything happens for a reason. You can always manifest the life you want. You can always get out of anything with your mind. That's something that is attached to privilege. Look at the women right now in the Ukraine who are, or people fleeing the Ukraine. Do you really think if they just had a positive attitude, they'd be safe in the Ukraine? Now, having a sense of hope and prayer and thinking it'll be okay, I'll find a way through, will that help them? Yes, but they have to act. And it won't change the situation by just positive thinking. Do miracles and magic happen in this world? Miracles absolutely happen. They also happen when we're engaged and we're involved. And they're not something we rely on. And they're not something we can necessarily create in every split-second moment with our mind and our positive thinking and our positive messages to everybody else. In a way, I think we use those to keep ourselves safe. I don't want to get that deadly disease, so I have a vision board that shows me that I'm only going to be healthy. Okay, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that vision board, but also then, are you doing the other stuff you need to do? We like to believe that we are the safe ones. Our way is the right way. That bad things won't happen to me, bad things won't happen here. And how do I know that? Because I think positive. This permeates, it absolutely sort of just permeates our environment and our culture. And, you know, it ends up where people feel ashamed. I wouldn't have gotten this disease if. This problem wouldn't have happened if I had been better. I had a student who came in, and actually I'd love to hear your comments. So go to Facebook. You know how to find me. Come on, you know Facebook. None of us like it, but we use it. Go to Facebook, the Dr. Elisa Show, and just put a comment in there. You can also find it on the KUHS Denver site and put a comment in. Or text me at 720-386-0513. Did you get that? 720-386-0513. You agree? You disagree? And trust me, I've had magic happen in my life. And trust me, I've had bad things happen, haven't we all? That I was able to grow from. But the bad thing didn't have a silver lining buried in it, and I had to get through that thing without automatically going to what is good about this. I had a student, this is what I started to tell you, who's had a child who died from sudden infant death. Is that SIDS? Yes, sudden infant death syndrome. And he said that one of his friends came to him and said to him, he's in a better place. And the student looked at me and said, how can somebody say that to me? This is a great place. I'm a good parent. How could somebody come to me in that moment and expect to comfort me that way? How could that happen? So, can positive thinking become toxic? Oh yeah, it absolutely can. Can giving those messages actually be harmful? Absolutely. So what do we have to do instead? A lot of us talk about staying authentic, staying with the value, our personal values, and understanding that there aren't simple answers for complex problems and complex questions. I wish there were. I wish we could have just like one little simple answer. Oh yes, just you know, like a bumper sticker. Just let's just all get along. Okay, that does a whole bunch of denial about people of color who have dealt with issues of discrimination over time. Can we just get along? Well, I don't exactly know how we're going to get along if discrimination is still in place and if women and people of color are still considered less than. No, we're not going to just get along. The bumper sticker doesn't work. Authenticity does. You know, authenticity talks about difficult conversations and acknowledging things that are sometimes painful. And knowing that at some point we can reflect back and say, I can see how I created good out of this. Another example, Viktor Frankl, one of my favorite writers. What did he do? He used not positive thinking, but an authentic way of staying focused on himself to survive in these horrible concentration camps. Would he ever say that those were good things? No. Would he ever say people should go through this? No. What did he say? He said that people can survive almost any what if they have a profound why. That's not positive thinking. That's, I'm going to deal with this, I'm going to be strong, I'm going to get through this somehow with the help of my friends and my family and the people around me and a dream I have inside of what will happen after this. Did that end the Holocaust? No. Will that necessarily heal cancer? No. It'll help you go through whatever you're going through. That why. But that why is not always a silver lining. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, because this is something that occasionally drives me crazy, right? Everything happens for a reason. Yeah, sometimes you were stupid. I was stupid and something weird happened. Or it's going to be fine. You don't know that it's going to be fine, right? I still have to go through this. And those are things we say automatically, these little platitudes, these little bumper sticker sayings, without considering what the person we're talking to really needs to hear. How do we really need to show up for each other? And right now, that's a profound question, right? How do we need to show up? One of the things we need to do is validate each other. You're going to have a wide range of emotions in this life, and platitudes aren't going to fix that. Experiencing the emotion, staying with it, and acknowledging it, that's a good start. Interestingly, everyone always wants to quote this research, that people who think positive are happier. That research is so complicated that you really can't do a cause and effect. Because maybe people are happier because they have a better life situation, and then they are more positive and they have more happy moments, but it's their positive life situation. It's very difficult. Does happiness help us have a better life and actually a better immune system and live longer? Yes. Is that a fake happiness? No. What is that happiness usually tied to? Good relationships. The way we are with each other. Deeply loving, caring, authentic, value-driven lives that aren't overbearing. Your values aren't my values, right? But a value that says love is important and people are important and my relationships are important. That helps. That helps. But we're in this weird society where we're supposed to be happy all the time. That is insane. Nobody's happy all the time. It doesn't work in every single moment. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. Happiness is something that we can have moments of joy, moments of wonder, moments of, right? And the more we have of those, great. But there's also life, and we have to deal with life. Okay? So this is sort of and I'm just not going to keep rambling about this, but this is the book Toxic Positivity. And I just want to say that if you haven't read it, it's a good read. And one of the things it'll say to you is, you did not manifest everything bad in your life. Just get over it. You didn't no. Okay. Could you have bad lungs because you never quit smoking? Yeah. Is there a cause and effect? Yeah. So there are life choices that do help us be healthier. But did you manifest everything? Did anyone in the Ukraine, did those women in the Ukraine manifest being attacked by Russia? No, they did not. And thinking that they did, or thinking that we can just send them love, send Reiki healing energy, is not going to solve the problem. So, I was hoping somebody of you would react and chat with me, because that could sound kind of different, right, for some people. And I'm not seeing any messages on the text, and I'm not seeing you chatting with me on Facebook. So, moving on. But I think if you read the book, you find it really interesting, and I think just being aware of what people need in the moment, right? What do people need in that moment? for me, I have to say that this is part of my living on the edge and living on the loose. What do I mean by that? You know, it is so easy to simply repeat everything the culture is saying. Think about that for a moment. Culture of Twitter. We just hit retweet, retweet, retweet. We are recapitulating. We are repeating. We are just sending forth messages without thought. And we do that on the positive to try to think this is what you're supposed to say to somebody. It'll be fine. You'll get better. It'll be okay. I know people who did fine. Right? I mean, an authentic relationship with someone is listening. And that's living on the edge. That's living on the loose. That's letting go of everything the culture has told you to say. And to understand what you need to say, what you need to understand, and how you need to dig deeper. It's one of the reasons that I've got a couple things on this show that I encourage you to do. One, and you've heard, if you've been with me a while, you know, I want everyone to be a philanthropist. Why? Because giving is good for our hearts and our souls, and it is something we can do that actually makes change. Pick whatever charity, wherever you want to give. The Humane Society, I'm just going to list some of mine, right? Sea Shepherd, yes. The MS Society is my huge one. I'm going to be starting fundraising later this month, like maybe tomorrow, for my big fundraising for the MS Society. You don't have to give a lot. You can give a little. And that still helps. In fact, most donations are small donations, and they change the world. You don't have money, but you have time? Awesome. Give some time. You don't have to join marches. You can go to your local horse rescue and spend time with the horses. Or man a phone line. Donate blood. Anything. Right? That is actually life on the loose. Because so few people in America actually are blood donors and donate. Right? Interestingly enough, people with less money donate more. People with more money donate less per capita. And some of them donate through their company, which is fine. Those are huge chunks of money. But somehow it feels less personal to me, right? It feels more personal when I give. But that's just my thought. What's the other thing I want to encourage you to do? Read. Read books. Lots of different books. Get off the internet. It's loud people yelling at each other. We're retweeting, we're re-saying, right? But we're not thinking. We're not feeling. We're stuck in that old groove of whatever it was. So, why do I want you to read? I want you to read because I read books. I want you to read because reading changes who we are. It changes how we think. I'm going to pause for a sec and remind you that this is the Dr. Elisa Show on KUHS Denver, The Stream. And we've been talking about toxic positivity. It's a really great book if you want to read it. And talking about how we can create change in the world that is way beyond platitudes and bumper stickers and repeating the things we hear that they think we start to think are true. Like everything happens for a reason, or there's always a silver lining, or there's not. There's not always a silver lining. We say those things because the culture has somehow, right, it's endemic in the culture. And so we believe it's true. And we say it. Stop and think and process. Read. Read books. Talk to people who have different opinions. Okay? And then tweet and post and do all those other lovely things. And yes, if you have a dream, a vision board is a lovely thing. But if you want to be a best-selling author, the first thing you have to do is write a book. I mean, that's just like basic, right? You can't just dream it. You've also got to do the work. And sometimes it takes a while. I want to be a best-selling author. I do. And so I've got books, and I'm going to sort of talk about how that process of dreaming it and creating it go hand in hand. And again, for me, that's life on the loose. There are, I don't know, hundreds, thousands, I don't know, of people out there willing to say, to teach you, give you the secret, the other secret, right? The secret of how to be a bestseller, how to sell your business, how to make sure your book sells on Amazon. And there's some really good information out there, how to run ads, it's really good information. And yet, there's a point at which we need to stop looking for all of that information outside and come inside. We talk about that in graduate school, right? So you go to grad school, and I'd love to know how many of you out here have had to write some kind of thesis or dissertation, and you sit at your used to be your typewriter, now your laptop, and sort of like cut your wrist and bleed. You just bleed your dissertation out. That's what it feels like at times. But there is a point at which you have to stop the research and have to write the words. There's a point at which there aren't more articles to read to produce what you need to produce now. There's a point at which we need to stop taking every single workshop out there, jumping from cultural norm to cultural norm to cultural norm, jumping from fad to fad to fad to fad. And in fact, there's a great book. This author is going to be on maybe in 2 weeks. I can't remember exactly when, but she wrote the Fuck It diet and I'm tired of this. And she talks about a life where she spent her life trying to be thin by jumping from diet to diet to diet. She went vegan. She went low-fat vegan. She went keto. She went, fasting, intermittent fasting. And all she did was get weaker and weaker and weaker and sicker. Not that there's anything innately wrong with one of those, but always looking for the one true and right way that will make my body be the body I want it to be instead of inhabiting the body I have. Yeah, there's a problem with that. There's a problem with when culture takes over. And we aren't living on the loose. We're living in this interesting dance of what the culture tells us we should do and we should think and who we should be. And we're definitely seeing that in our world right now. And I'm not going down the political rabbit hole because I'm not. We're staying out of that one today. We might go down it another time. Okay, you are listening to the Dr. Elisa Show on KUHS Denver, The Stream. And you can chat with me on Facebook. If I've irritated you, that's really kind of cool. If I have, say something in Facebook. I'm going to refresh this page just in case you chatted and I didn't see it, because maybe you did. You can go to my show, the Dr. Elisa Show, on Facebook and take a look at that. Post there. You can go to KUHS Denver, The Stream. And I love this. The internet just said, yeah, we try again. Don't you love it when the internet is just tired and it doesn't want to talk to you? Or you can text me, 720-386-0513. Would love to hear your thoughts on all of the stuff that I'm talking about here today. Okay, so I am back on that page and seeing if you have chatted with me. And here we go. Hopefully there's some chat. There's a few comments here, so thank you. I got some thumbs up. I got some horrified emojis. I got some smiles. Thank you. Keep those coming. And nothing on text. All right, we're going to change gears here a little bit. And we are going to talk about books, because that's what we've been talking about anyway, right? And I want to talk about writing books and my books and that process and what that means when you're kind of on the edge, when you're living life on the loose and you're doing it in a way that is authentic for you. Now I have to say, life on the loose is not a cultural norm, and it is something that I do, but it's something that also can be tricky. Very tricky. I'm not selling yet another product that says, do this and you shall be happy. Or do this and the money will follow, because I'm not saying that either. I am saying that sometimes living our authentic self, living our way, is actually on the loose, is actually different from what we've been taught. And that we need some of that. We need some of that because we get too sucked in to the belief system we were handed. And that belief system is not only about the world, but it's about us, who I should be, what I should look like, how I should dress, how I should act. I have to say that Gen Z, I'm applauding you. You are not, you are creating it in a different way, the same way that we did in the 60s. Yes, we all looked alike, but we were stepping away from. And that is the job of teenagers. If you're raising a teenager, their job is to step away, to get to the edge, to live a bit on the loose, and to say those old norms don't work for me. And encourage them to vote, by the way, because that's their other job, is to vote and to say, yeah, we're not going backwards in time, we're going forwards in time. Without that younger generation, it doesn't happen. How do the rest of us who are no longer that younger generation, how do we do it? We do this dance of the mystical, spiritual, woo-woo with the reality. We do that dance. And it's a fascinating dance, right? I'm an astrologer. Oh yeah, I've got a hard science degree and a social science degree. And I know that there's definitely a dance between the synchronicity and the miracles in the world and the hard work and the reality and the checking in and the personal responsibility. There's a dance between those two. I want to be a best-selling author. I really do. And so what I do, I wrote 3 books. This one talks about that dance on some level in a different way. So I want to tell you about this book just a little bit and I want to tell you how I wrote it, because I think that epitomizes this notion of the dance. So let's go back in time, a long time. Maybe almost 40 years ago. And I had a friend who was bartending and who was going to school and who wanted to be a detective, right? A police detective. And some friends and I would go and hang out. I was much younger, 40 years ago, and hang out, right, on a Saturday night at her bar, or where she was bartending. And also, if you're on Facebook, change the subject, you might be looking in back of me. This is not Taste of Life Nutrition. She was on before, and she does great work, and that was a great show. And there'll be a show after me, but this is the Dr. Elisa show. Just saying. So anyway, this friend of mine, and she was going to school, and she was doing everything somebody needs to do to be a detective. And I would show up, and I spun this story for her. Now, this is pre-internet. And I talked about her creating a way to connect the computers at different bars and track people by what drinks they ordered. And so patterns of what they ordered. You know, these people always come in and always order a red wine and that person orders a Tuwaka, and this one orders a stout. And there's a pattern, and they keep ordering those, and then other bars could track them. And it was a way she was being able to say if there was someone who's disruptive or someone we had to find, maybe we could find them via these patterns. This is way before the internet. And then she said, well, what do I do with that? And there was a guy who came into the bar all the time who was rather pale. And I said, well, you know, you might have a vampire come in. And I spun this whole other tale about this guy. We weren't sure he was a vampire. How would we figure it out? Could we get him to sit in front of a mirror? Could we give him a drink with garlic, you know, like garlic bread, and on and on. And then, you know, she had a pet octopus in the story, right? And was saved by this horse that the octopus fell in love with. I spun this entire tale 40 years ago. Go forward. 2020. I am profoundly alone. No family in Denver. I had to put my dog down in March. I am profoundly alone, right? The beginning of March 2020, and we are shut down. And what am I going to do with my day? here, right? I mean, I have some work on the computer, and I decided to write the story. And I realized there was no story there. It was just these little pieces, and there was like maybe a story that would take me 4 pages to write. And so, I remembered that what I wanted to be when I was a kid, once I learned how to read, I wanted to be an author. That's what I wanted to be. Not a bestseller necessarily, but I wanted to be an author. I wanted people to love my writing. I want you to love my writing, which actually you can read my writing. If you go to my website, elisarobin.com, and you sign up, you will get every couple weeks a blog. You can go to Medium. I also post it there. I post it everywhere. You can find me, but you get it first or directly if you sign up on my website. So I wanted to write. This is who I wanted to be, and here I am. It's 2020, and I got this story. And I would get up in the morning, and I'd go for this 6-mile walk. And on the walk, I would talk to these characters, and they would tell me the next part of the story. And I'd come back home, and I'd sit at my computer, and I'd write out what they told me. And when I ran out of story, I'd go for a bike ride, or I'd take my kayak out, because luckily I lived somewhere that through the entire pandemic, I could be outside. And yes, I know we're still in a pandemic, we're in the endemic phase of the pandemic, but through that lockdown stage. And then I'd write. And I wrote this amazing vampire character, who's a partly vampire, but you're not sure if he's a partly vampire. And the octopus who fell in love with the horse, and the horse who fell back in love with her and actually saves her when she's kidnapped. But it all came together because I was talking about lineage wounds of women, and that was the key that tied this whole story together. And I got that on these walks, the synchronicity, this sort of magic. Why? Because in that time I was also listening to what do people need to hear, and what do I need to say, and what do I need to hear. And so this book was born. I have to tell you also, it starts with a Jewish, like a seed. There is a woman in Torah, there's 2, named Tamar, who are abandoned by the men in their lives and who have to find a way to build their life different. And they're powerful women, but they're highly wounded. And the story then talks in a metaphorical way about healing those lineage wounds, and how those lineage wounds are passed down, and how if we don't heal those wounds, other people live off our pain. There's the underlying story in this story about a partly vampire and an octopus and a horse. Oh, and the magic dog does show up at some point. And another vampire who's this incredibly sexy woman. Well, she's a partly vampire. This book came out of my need to express, my craving to be an author, but also my willingness to listen to my inner story and to write it down. My willingness to spend time writing, and then spend time editing, and then spend time working with someone on a cover, and then hiring the amazing Dana Ellington, Nawada Press, who's also been on my show, who helped me edit this book and get it out on Amazon. Do that last bit of putting together. So I was willing to reach out to people who could help me. I spent the time doing the work. I didn't have a vision board, quite frankly, but I had this craving. And sometimes cravings are the way that Hashem or God or the universe, its spirit guides talk to us through our cravings. But those cravings don't manifest if we just do. I can manifest it. I can think it. I shall have a vision board. I shall just, bring life into me. I shall Reiki the world. We got to do the work. Yeah, sorry, but we got to do the work. I have to write the book. And I have to talk about the book. And I have to do the marketing for the book. And none of that is bad stuff. And does it help when I have a vision of it being great? Yeah. But I want you to know I changed that vision too. You know why? Because being a bestseller, well, I got it to the top of Amazon for 5 days running. I got it into the top 5 books for 5 days running, right? There's a trick. You can do that. I want it to be something that people read and feel inspired and thoughtful, or changed, or shifted, or entertained, or a moment of escape from a world that is so profoundly confusing. And let me say, the world is always confusing. And it's not more confusing now than it's been. There's always this push-pull. There's a group of people who think the 1950s were great and we should all go back there and be happy ever after, and the world won't do it. It's really going to be a fascinating dance. I think I've mentioned this to you. The United States of America is having its Pluto return. You can Google it, U.S. Pluto return. We're in it, we're seeing it, and it's a battle, not a war, but a battle. For those who think the 1950s were great, and if everybody would just go back and behave the way we want them to behave, the world will be good. And a whole generation saying, that year sucked, and we're not going there, because we're already so far past it. We're going another generation. So yeah, you know what? I focus on hope, and I'm hoping to manifest a good world like that. And how am I doing it? I'm doing the work. Those two things dance together. The book for me is a symbol of that. But it also happens in the book. She finds that she is part of this lineage of women of the dark. And we recreate the dark. The dark is this brilliant place that helps the light shine. It's a brilliant darkness. It's a place we go to be prophets, to find our deepest soul meaning. And she's of that lineage, and it's in those dark places where we do this profound healing work that she does. Tamara, my main character in here. This book talks about that. Yeah, there's magic in the book, and she does the work. Yeah, there's a sexy vampire who has a master's degree in kissing, and who is definitely a partly vampire. And he does his work. He can't just be a vampire. Isn't that cool? It doesn't happen that way, right? That there is this amazing dance. And with that, we find life. I've been talking to some other friends on the phone and other people I know. And you can tell when you talk to them and they are manifesting this great life. They're working. They're working, and they're not hustling. They're not kind of lying about who they are, but they're doing work. Here's who I want to be, and here's the obstacles that I might face, and here's the work I have to do to get there. And yeah, I'm going to keep a vision in front of me, but you know what? I'm also going to let that vision change. I'm going to change it from I'm a best-selling author to you read my book and you get back with me on Facebook or on Twitter or on LinkedIn or on Instagram, or you email me and you go to my website and you tell me about the book and what resonated for you. And maybe you disagree with me and we have a good discussion. Because I'm not asking you to agree. I'm just asking you to engage. Okay. I thought that was a text. It wasn't. Look at that. Ooh, my private text is coming through. Isn't that fun? So if you know my private number, if you're one of my clients, you have my number. And there are some very cool texts about this is challenging your thinking. This is making you feel like on the loose is different, living on the edge. And you know, I'm the woman who wrote Pirate Wisdom. How do I get through life? How have I been an academic? Was I an academic dean at 3 institutions for 25 years? Pirate. There's a way to do this. I didn't break laws. I never, ever lie about money. In fact, I don't lie. It's too complicated. There's a way to understand that a life at the edge and not trying to run the armada from the main central ship is pretty powerful and life-affirming. And we need those people. I'm not telling you that it's easy. I'm telling you, for some of us it resonates, and I'd love to know if this resonates for you. Okay, so what did we talk about today? On some sort of interesting stream of consciousness, right? Life on the loose? Yeah. But how that's not just like a little platitude, a little thing we all say to each other. It's not It's not ignoring the pain, the suffering, the difficulties of the world. It's being authentic with people you love. It's being authentic on the planet. It's being authentic with yourself. It's knowing when to take responsibility for things and when life happens, right? I mean, I trust me, these women, anybody in the Ukraine, there are ways that positive thinking doesn't get you out. There are always stories of miracles, yes. And in fact, in Israel, there's a saying that if you don't believe in miracles, you're not being realistic. We don't count on miracles. We don't do that. We trust that that could be part of our life, and we do the work. Of course, that's Jewish philosophy. It may not be New Agey, whatever, but that is where change happens for us in our lives and the way we want to live. So, talked about that. Talk about my book. Please go to Amazon. You can get it, and actually, here's what I'm going to do. I have some free Kindle versions. I have some links to that. If you would like to read this book and you're willing to do a review on Amazon and you're willing to chat with me about it, then go to my website, sign up, send me an email that says just signed up for your website, and I will send you back, because I need your email, a link to the book on Kindle, and you can read it and have it for free. And you can share it, because you can share this Kindle for free. And if you've got you don't need a Kindle. You can download the Kindle app for free on your phone, on your laptop, on any tablet, on any computer, and read it that way. Okay. And Dark Fire. I can't send you the pirate one, sorry, I don't have a bunch of those. I probably have one, Way of the Well, if you want to read that one, but I suggest you start with Dark Fire, because who doesn't want to read about a sexy vampire? And understand when it was written, and the power of taking a dream and a vision, right, and doing the work. Okay, I think I probably, gave you enough of that. Who's coming on in the future? Some really fun people. And with this message still of being at the edge, don't just get sucked up into what everybody is saying. What everybody's saying is not necessarily true or right. It doesn't resonate with you. And for some of us, we're supposed to be the outliers. That's what my soul came here to do, to be an outlier, to be at the edge, to challenge and question, and not to make humongous changes in the world. I didn't come here to be the mediator who can solve anything. I came here to be a bit at the edge and to shift things by giving you a different perspective. And I hope that's what I've done today. Okay, you have been listening to the Dr. Elisa Show on KUHS Denver, The Stream. You need to stay tuned, because after me, the amazing Henry Archuleta is going to be having the jazz show, and you just need to hang out and listen to some cool music and contemplate and think about everything I said. Let it sink into who you are, okay? And I want to leave you with just a few thoughts. There are so many ways to stay inspired. I want to know how this show has ignited something inside of you, made you realize that each of us has a piece of this way that we live on the loose in the world. And I want you to let me know. Good or bad, I want you to let me know. And until I see you again in 2 weeks, I want your inner flame, and we all have one, to help you stay well, to burn brightly, to stay curious, to be like a bit of a detective, to stay inspired, and keep living on the loose. Bye.